2.5 years. Really enjoy it here. Great people, and I think it's a great town. When I first moved in, there's two street lights that are located by my home, not right in front of it or anything, but there's two street lights, and neither one of them was working. And so I started talking to some of the neighbors and ask them why they're not working, why they haven't been repaired. And they basically told me that that's the best thing is to have them out, because these street lights were very bright and very obnoxious. And so they were happy with them not working. So kind of deal. So anyway, after I was at the town council meeting, I think it was in November, around there, and we said all the street lights were going to be repaired in the town. So that kind of got me thinking with, just my neighbors didn't like them. I wonder if anybody else was not happy with them too. So I started looking around at them, and I wanted to see what type of lights were there. I wanted to see which ones were not working. I wanted to see a little bit about it. I made a map of the ones that weren't working, the ones that were working, and kind of drew up that. About the same time, a day or two later, I seen Dan come driving by. So I stopped and introduced myself to him and talked to him about, I guess he was looking at lights too to find out which ones needed repaired after, getting to order to do it. So I explained to him that, none of the people were happy with the floodlights that were there. And that we were trying to look at a different situation, maybe the down lights. We have a few of them in there that shine down. They're not near as obtrusive. They're not anything like that. So I talked to him a little bit and explained what we were trying to do. He told me he'd keep in touch and let me know what was happening. Okay. So anyway, about that same time, the survey, I think, was just about finished up on this thing. So I was driving down the street and I seen a Rocky Mountain Power truck with his boom up in the air. And so I thought, man, they're coming to fix these things already. So I kind of pulled him down. I said, talk to him. Says, I want to see what he was doing. He says, well, I'm fixing all these lights. I says, oh, I thought we were trying to do a couple other things. We were working with the corporate office. We were doing several different things to look at a different type of lighting. So I'd asked him if he could please stop what he was doing, because we didn't want to do this twice until we found out what we wanted. Okay, so he came down off of there and he'd been up looking at the light, and he says, this one here looks like it's been shot out, and also there's no bulb in it. So I looked at him, I says, that's why we want to get this done right now. So if indeed that was the case, it does not happen again. And so he was kind of upset at me that I asked him not to do it, but he decided, to do it. I says, we want to put some lights in like the down lights, not like this particular one you're working on. So anyway, he come down, he was not happy with me, but he stopped what he was doing there. Let's see. And anyway, the bulb that was removed, it wasn't removed by any homeowner. Rocky Mountain had pulled it out about 4 years ago because the light was shining right in the house of that homeowner that was there, and he didn't like it. So it was not somebody that pulled the light out. It wasn't shot out. So I started wondering about this. So I went down to the local Rocky Mountain Power office and talked to the manager to see if there was anything they could do for us and how we could work about this. And went down and talked to them, and they have several different styles of lights. They have the floodlights and they have the downlights, which they put in many parts of the town now. Ivan's is one that is pretty much all the downlit type lights. So we talked to him. At that time, I sat there, had a pretty good discussion with him. And he said that the crew would be up the following week and would make the repairs with whatever the town wanted. So, I mean, they were very good at wanting to do what we wanted to do here. Well, I left the office and came home, and I found out why I was at the office down there. All of the lights had been repaired. They were already done. So he was off on his schedule a little bit didn't know where his guys were that day. So anyway, the thing I want to do here is, I think we jumped on this thing right away, and there was we were trying to figure out a better deal, what all the people wanted, but somehow this got pushed through, and very, very upset people out there when all these lights were all of a sudden fixed, because they're obnoxious. I mean, the floodlights are really obnoxious, and I wouldn't want one of those in front of my house. And so that's how I kind of how I came to this, and I wanted to give my little story on this now. So.
Thank you. And then just to explain, council members, what's in your packet, you do have a trifold on, because it's a balance of safety and dark skies. So there's a pamphlet addressing that. There's a note-taking version of our PowerPoint. I'm Darlene Pope. Thank you for reminding me, even though it's right here. And the other thing is by number, not by name, because a lot of people chose to write their names on their surveys, but some preferred not to because you get more honest answers that way. But you have a list of all of the surveys that were turned in. Their choices, some people ranked all 4, some people just did 1, some people did 1 or 2, and any comments the people make. And I just wrote down what everybody said. So it's just raw data there. Okay, so that's what's in your packet. And now I'm going to turn it over to Bill Swenson.
My name is Bill Swenson, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for working us into your agenda and your schedule. So I have lived in Desert Gardens for 8 years, and prior to that, 20 years prior to that, I was a resident of Virgin also, back when they were filming The Electric Horseman, and I got to meet Robert Redford and Jane Fonda right here on this property. It was pretty cool. I was going to the post office one day, and I went, what's all these cars and horse trailers and everything doing down here? Well, they were down here filming The Electric Horseman, so I didn't even think about that till just now. So it was kind of, I've been around the block here in Virgin, and I'm happy to be back, and I'm happy to be here talking to you about the possibility of maybe moving towards somewhat of a dark sky community. We value it. It should be a value to us all. To some it's not maybe, but it is a value to the general public. And I will say that if the governor hasn't signed it already, there is a new license plate coming out. Hopefully he does sign this for dark sky. So there was 2 new license plates. He signed one, and I'm keeping trying to see it come out that he did sign off on the other one. I would hope there isn't a reason he would not, because it made it through the legislature. So, hey, dark sky is something people are seeking, whether it be residents such as us or visitors. And yes, paying customers are coming out here to see the Milky Way. They're coming out here to see the planets, the dark sky. It's something I think that we all grew up with. And if we can hold on to that, it would be huge. And of course, we're on the Scenic Zion Corridor, and our neighbors up the canyon are working on that. And we see the glow from down below, and we hope to keep it there, okay? And maybe keep our dark sky intact. So with the survey, right out of the gate, I would like to thank all of the property owners and neighbors in the Desert Gardens community for their input. It was priceless. The 3 of us, Stan, Darlene, and I, with a little help from a couple other people, went door to door, mailed surveys, and the feedback was phenomenal. And I don't know if you have the comments, but we can get them to you. Some of the comments, yes. And there's a couple that say, hey, we like it as it is, or, but primarily you'll see in the survey, there were a lot of good ideas. So let's roll. Okay, the Desert Garden Survey, the goals of that survey, of course, were to identify the consensus opinion of property owners in Desert Gardens in respect to the topic of street lighting. And once this survey was completed, to forward this information to the city council. And that's why we're here. I should say the town council. So we reached out to get this information for you to evaluate and hopefully consider and take a look at it and possibly move forward with some changes, some upgrades. As Stan mentioned, some of the lights are obtrusive at best. Some are downlit. We've got kind of all different things out there. So the overview of the survey area, can you go back to slide 3? Oh, that's it. Sorry. Okay, there are 61 lots, just to familiarize you all with Desert Gardens, and 3 of those property owners got 2 lots. So we had 58 property owners to reach out to and contact to complete the survey. And on to page 4 over the overview. Furthermore, of those 58, 8 of the property owners of vacant lots had the survey mailed to them, and 3 out of those 8 did respond back. And of the other 50 property owners who are residents or are in the process of building, we had 48 that we contacted in person, and the remaining 2 were sent mail or via email. They did all get back to us. So our goal was to contact and deliver this survey to all of the lot owners, and that was accomplished with 100% of the property owners contacted. So we gave everyone an opportunity to get back to us on this. We didn't get 100% back feedback, but we got 84%. So that's pretty big. Okay, the survey and its options. Let's talk about the survey itself. As you can see on the screen, I think it's somewhat clear. It might be a little blurry, but pretty much we talked about last November. Things happened in town where we don't want to go backwards here and look at the reason we're here. I think the council knows the reason we're here. But let's talk about the example of the survey. I could, they'd like to take the opportunity of fellow neighbors and citizens to provide input, essentially. And then in bold, it shows where the surveys could be returned to. And then the goals, of course, were to develop an improved understanding. So of what we all would like to have, and to identify those street lighting preferences through residents. And then again, communicate that back to the town council. So this is just something we're looking at in the Desert Garden community. So near the bottom portion, as you'll see there, option A, B, C, and D of the screen, those were the 4 choices. Now, I'll say right now, there was a comments section below that too. So if they didn't see a choice they liked, they were able to provide comments additionally to that. So of course, option A was to install downcast lighting on current street lamp posts. We have some of that now. It could likely be improved. What is there now? This minimizes the outward glare or the glow effect and focuses the light down on the street. Option B, no changes, was an option, and to replace existing street lamp. So pretty much status quo on option B. And of course, option D was the removal of all street lights and poles. And I was quite surprised. You'll see the numbers come out here of how it's all worked out, especially on the removal of all street lights and poles. It just about beat it out. So with that said, we move on to page 6. Who responded to our survey? Well, of those 58 property owners, we had 49 responses. Okay, the reason there was only 49 is 3 owners chose not to participate, and 2 of these said they weren't affected, so they really didn't care. 1 was busy with out-of-town work, and 1 person was contacted several times with no response. So that brings us back, and 5 out-of-town property owners did not mail back or contact us back. So that brings us down, that accounts for the 58 property owners, of which 49 did return comments, surveys. So I'm moving on to page 7. Let's look at the results. Let's look and see why we're here. Darlene's done a great job on this PowerPoint. I couldn't have come up with even this slide. This says it all. I'll just roll with it. 100% of the 58 property owners were contacted, okay, and did respond. So 49 surveys were received out of the 58. Again, that's 84% of the neighborhood came on board. Option A, the first option, 47% or 23 property owners preferred retrofit downlighting. So to come in with the hoods that we have on the existing lamps and to come in with a retrofit that shoots down rather than out. So it's really utilizing the light better. It's improving the light on the street, yet not going outward glare into the neighborhood. Option B, 2% or one property owner preferred no changes. That person just said, no, I like it as it is, no changes, just keep on going the way you're going. One person. Option C, which was the relocation and or removal of lights, got 14%, which was 2 property owners. And the surprising thing to me was option D, 37%, just below our 47% on the hooded lights. 37%, 18 property owners preferred, let's take them out.
The 14% of removed some is a correct percentage, but I have silly fingers, that 2 is actually 7.
Okay, I was wondering about that when I said it, because the 14 and the 2 didn't correlate with 2 and 1.
14% is correct.
I should have caught that. I never was good at math.
So where it says remove some,
That should be 7.
7%, yes. As soon as I said that, 14. Okay. Thanks for the correction. And once again, the comments section for input was well received. I think I believe I counted out of the 49 respondents, I believe there was 37 or 38 that responded with comments, additionally 2 marking off their choices, preferred choice 1 through 4. So the comment section were great. So let's go to the takeaway on this survey, page 8. We believe this survey identifies that there's a strong consensus to maintain the dark sky in Desert Gardens neighborhood. We have quite a bit of it out there. We want to keep it. In fact, we'd like to improve upon it. There's also a strong consensus that traditional lighting is not a favored option, as in the outward glow of traditional lighting that just pretty much blows out and goes everywhere throughout the surrounding area of each streetlight. Also, that fully shielded downlighting would allow, if we were to go to fully shielded downlighting, it would allow lighting that protects the dark sky and as well provides for safety. So, you know, we've got traffic safety out there. That's some of the concerns we looked at. Some of the people commented on, maybe we need them on intersections. Maybe we need them at corners. You see the comments. You can review through that. And we hope that you do. So what are our next steps? Onward to page 9. Our next steps, as what a trifecta of the 3 of us and maybe our neighbors as well, we're willing to bring others into this. We're going to reach out to Rocky Mountain Power and have them help us identify the costs that may be associated with a retrofit or a relocation or a removal or a complete taking them out of the neighborhood and getting us closer to a dark sky compliant street lighting. They do have a program coming up here shortly. It's not intact yet, but they did give me a heads up that they're coming in with an incentive for dark sky lighting. As a part of that, it's cost savings to the town, it's cost savings to the citizens. There's some percentages in there. She couldn't quite iron it all out because it's still illegal, but it sounds like it could be a win-win. Okay, and it's going to bring in some LED lighting, whether it be 3,000 K or 4,000 K, and those are things we need to work through. So that's Rocky Mountain Power. We're also going to explore funding options and opportunities. It may be that we can join with the town with some funding. Maybe we can get together and have some, funding opportunities to help the cost of doing this, if it is so chosen to go that way. I don't think we'll be able to cover the whole thing, but then again, we could be surprised. So if the town would support that, look at some funding opportunities. We're also going to identify with dark sky programs that are offered. I already mentioned that. And last but not least, this is the big one. We're going to work and partner with the town council and the town staff. And that's why we're here. We're trying to work and partner with you to try to improve upon what we have in Desert Gardens, and essentially what we have in the town of Virgin. Okay? We have a value here that we don't want to lose. And we can further the goals to sustain dark sky values in our area by working together. So in closing, on page 10, again, let's choose to work together by listening to all voices within the community. You know, I read a quote, and I was going to look this up before I came in, so hopefully I'm going to catch this right, but you should talk like you're right and listen like you're wrong. And I think that's a big statement because it opens you up to listening to what other people have to say. When you think you're right and you think you're right and you're listening to them and you still think you're right, maybe you should talk like you're right and listen like you're wrong, and then we can find that give and take. Just saying. Okay. Also, we need to understand the value of having a dark sky community. I've kind of drilled on that, but it is huge. Springdale's doing it. Ivans is doing it. It's around, of course, we don't need to go out in the world and out in the US and talk about it, but our neighbors are doing it. So there must be something good out there if they're striving to keep that dark sky. And Ivans has got a big hurdle in their neck of the woods because they're the other side of St. George, and it's pretty darn close to the big city. So we're in a better mode here where we're up on top and maybe moving towards the darker sky of the canyon. So it might be, we have a benefit there. And in closing, of the many comments that were received from the survey, there again, I did put it in there, like 36 of the 48, 49, what did I give you there that got back to us? 36 people wrote comments, and some are pretty precious. Some are great. Others are standard. So I'm going to leave with this quote from one of our respondents. This is a property owner. Our preference is to protect the night skies as much as possible without sacrificing safety. All streetlights resulting from this activity should be IDA approved, and that's International Dark Sky approved. So that would be downlighting, it would be 3,000 lumens or less or more. We're still trying to understand that ourselves, of LED lighting. It still provides sufficient light, but it's not the big, bright sodium vapor lights, which is the standard. And any existing street lights that are not IDA approved should be removed or replaced with the IDA approved lights. So with that said, I think we've got a general consensus of a pretty good survey. Appreciate you giving us this time. And I hope that.
Welcome.
Okay.
Thank you for your information you presented. All right, we have 1 minute before we start the regular meeting. You guys did really good with timing. Okay, so it is now 7 o'clock, and we will go ahead and call the regular meeting to order. I planned on checking to see if there was anyone who wanted to give the invocation or have any words to say, and I never got around to it. So here we are with a need for an invocation. So I guess that's you, Leroy.
Our tender-guided and gracious Father in heaven, we, a few of thy children, bow our heads in humble gratitude to thee for our life and for living in this beautiful community surrounded with these beautiful area in southern Utah. We're grateful for the citizens of this town that are so willing to come and to voice their concerns and to be willing to help in making this a better place to live. We pray that your spirit will be here in this meeting, a spirit of love, of understanding, and of empathy for one another's needs and desires. We pray for this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, yes, sure.
Ready, begin.
Okay, does any of the town council members have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? I do not.
I don't.
Paul?
No.
Okay. Be sure to use your microphone because you speak so low.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so with this agenda, one of the things I did is I took the council comments were always at the end of the meeting, and I moved them up to the beginning of the meeting because last month our meeting went long, and by the time we got to council comments and we had things to tell the townspeople, there was no one here. They had left because it was too late. So I moved council comments to the beginning. So I have a list of some things I wanted to bring up, and then if anyone else on the town council has anything you want to say, you can say it too. So if you remember last month, I said I was going to go to the meeting for the Washington County Solid Waste because they wanted to change the hours that the dumpsters were open, and the result of that meeting is the hours are going to stay as they are, so no change there. We only have 3 microphones for the town council to use, and we've got some on order. Do you have an update for us, Crystal? Okay, no update from them yet. No update on when they're going to be in. Next thing, I've had a lot of complaints over time from various people that get their water bills that are paperless water bills, that you're not getting the town newsletter. And Crystal and I were looking at that yesterday because what is supposed to happen is those of you that have paperless water bills, you're supposed to get the town newsletter in an email from the company called ExpressPay, correct? And we were playing with it yesterday and it just didn't, you got the newsletter when we were playing around with Crystal, but nobody else that we played with got one. So she's going to follow up to find out why this isn't working with ExpressPay. Okay. Last week, I went to a training session in Cedar City that had to do with emergency managers. The first 2 meetings I've talked to you guys about the fact that I would like to appoint an emergency manager here in town because that's required by the state code now. And so I went to a training session last week to learn more about that. And I will update next week. We'll talk more about the emergency manager. But I got a lot of information. I sat at the right table at this training session. There was the liaison from the state of Utah's emergency manager department was at the table. The sheriff for Beaver County was there, and the emergency manager for Iron County was at my table. And I'm like, boy, did I get information. So I was like, I sat at the right table at this conference. Next, there was a meeting on Friday with area mayors from the 5 counties. with Governor Cox up in Cedar City, and we talked about a number of things that the mayors were concerned about in the 5 different counties. And what I did not realize is that Iron County has a real water problem, and their issue was water, 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 water. The issue with us from Washington County was vacation rentals, vacation rentals, vacation rentals, vacation rentals, and affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing. And so his staff are going to follow up on that. But one thing that came out of this meeting is we talked a little bit about the Ash Creek Special District. And, last year there had been quite a bit of talk about bringing sewer to Virgin. And then that fell apart when the funding did not come through. And according to what we found out at the meeting, the state appropriated another $25 million for the projects like ours that was not funded this past year. And anyone who was on the list to be funded is going to be funded. And so it sounds like Ash Creek is going to be getting the money. So there will be discussions. And so I'm just warning everybody now, this topic has not gone away. So it will be back. We will see if Ash Creek gets the money, but I suspect that they will. So we will find out more as the year goes along. Whoa. Sorry, guys. Next, we signed a contract with a company who's going to update our website for us. I've talked about this before in one of the newsletters, and we want to have it up and running on July 1st. But right now we're at one of the things that's coming up. They've asked us if anyone has any photos about the town that they want to submit that they would consider putting on the website on various pages. So if anybody has any photos they would like to contribute for consideration, they can email them to Crystal.
And I need that by Monday.
Oh, is it that quickly? Okay, I was going to put it in the next newsletter. I guess that's too late. So,
We can change it, but they want something by Monday.
okay.
There's some historical photos on that quilt
Yes.
in the town hall, so I would think we should look at using some of those.
And I suspect all of those probably came from Lenny. So
No,
most of the
they
photos.
came from Dina
Yes,
Sessions.
but I suspect Dina got the photos from Lenny.
Could
Yeah,
be.
because she was not from here. She wouldn't have had those photos just in her possession.
They work together on that building.
Okay. Three more things, and then I'll let anyone else have something to say. We were required to prepare a natural hazard mitigation. Is that if we have any sort of disaster here in town and we did not have a plan that was approved, that we would not qualify for any money from FEMA to help recover from the disaster. But if we have a plan and a disaster happens, then we do get money from FEMA to help recover. So we have a plan that we will put on the agenda next month for everyone to look at. One thing that Bill Swenson had asked for at the last town council meeting was, would we consider law enforcement in town again? And as we're preparing the budget, which we'll be going over next month, we discussed law enforcement, and it's going to be extremely expensive. What we had 5 years ago for law enforcement, we paid $50,000, I think, over the course of a year. And we got 40% of the services from the Springdale Police. Today, to do the same level of service is going to cost us $500,000. So we will consider this maybe as time goes on. Yes,
Can I have a moment to that one?
you may.
So as you might already see, that there has been pretty heavy officers around lately in this last couple of weeks. As you probably see, Officer New, he's a really great guy. He has made a good point to come up here quite often and drive through neighborhoods. yes, he's really just, he's been driving through neighborhoods, he's stopping and talking to people, he's really making a presence. So if you see him out this way, thank him, because he's going more so, spending a lot more time up here. I did express to Washington County that we needed a little bit more presence up here, and they've been doing a great job with notice these last couple of weeks. That's awesome.
Can I just comment, I guess, publicly?
Well, we're going to have open forum in just a minute, but sure. So just hold your thought, and when we have open forum, you can present it. Okay. So, no. Okay. That's all I have at the moment. Leroy, do you have anything you want to say?
The only thing I wanted to say was last month, we approved pickleball courts at the town park where the basketball courts are. And we approved Stout Concrete to do that, and got together with Stout Concrete this week. And we went over the original plans and decided to change the plans. And that was going to save the town some money. And so we went ahead with it. It was approved for $47,000, and it'll come in at $45,000. And there'll be 3 pickleball courts. They'll be on the north end of the basketball court. That will leave the south end, which is next door to the restrooms. And there will only be 40 feet there. A normal basketball is 50. So it'll be a little shorter, but by moving them where they were, we're going from 30 foot on the previous plans. And so I just wanted to let the public know, and I gave copies of how it will fit on that basketball court to each member of the council. And if anyone else wants a copy, I have a couple extra for them.
Okay. Paul, anything you would like to say?
Yes, thank you. Bill, Darlene, Stan, thank you very much for the presentation. And members of Desert Garden, thank you. I think it's very important for neighborhoods to get together and organize to work on the problems that affect that particular neighborhood, and to make presentations as a group to the council, because I think that carries a lot of emphasis and weight. So I appreciate your hard work on that. One item that I made a note of is at a later point, I'll work with Heath, because I haven't looked at the law, but I've questioned whether there's a possibility of impact fees from the streets to go towards the lighting, because it's lighting of the streets and it's an upgrade in lighting. I don't know if that fits the state definition, but it's something that maybe we'll take a look at down the road. It may be a long shot, but it's something we can look at.
Misty, you have anything you want to say?
I love what you guys did in Desert Gardens, put together country residents. You were mentioning the retrofitting. Is that something that you could maybe send us an email of, so we can see what you're talking about, and maybe one of us could work with you on getting with the power company? Because I noticed we have a lot of different flavors of street lights in our town. Yeah. And so it would be great to try to expand that out into our entire town, because balancing safety and the dark sky is super important, because it needs to satisfy both, preserve what we have, but also keep our kids and those of us that walk at night safe. So I would love to see what you were talking about. So I would love to see it, or you can email me, call me, and I'd love to know what you're thinking. Okay. Because I would love to support that. I talked to a couple weeks ago, I think we all mentioned it. You guys have done a lot of homework on that.
Thank you, Misty. Okay, so moving on the agenda, the next thing is the consent agenda. And item A, we did not get a copy of the February 2022 checks and invoices, so that we will not be able to look at and approve next month. We can look at that and do both February and March, probably at the same time in April. B, about approval of the town council minutes, we can discuss in a minute. And item C really cannot be on the consent agenda. That will be a separate item. So all we really have on the consent agenda is the discussion and approval of the town council minutes. So have you, each of you had your chance to look at it and have any comments for Darcy? Any changes? No?
I propose that we accept the town council draft minutes as they are.
I had a couple of changes. I'm going to hand you my copy. Darcy, I'll give you my copy with my changes. I'll just point out that on page 2, line 36, you have the Pledge of Allegiance was resisted. And I'm like, I think we recited it. So there, I have a few other things like that throughout here, but they're all small. I'll just give you my copy at the end. Okay, so back again to your motion.
I'll amend my motion to accept the draft of the town minutes for last month as changed by the mayor.
To detach the capitalized. I second the motion.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, so now it's open forum. That's the next item on the agenda, so go for it. Oh. Be sure and state your name.
My name's Bob Clark. I live up on the, what's it called, Pocket Bill Road. I want to talk about putting some speed bumps in there. And I've been talking about it. I've lived here for 30 years. And I'm tired of being out in the road yelling at people to slow down. The stop signs aren't working all the time, especially when they're coming down. Going up, it doesn't matter. They're already past my house. But if you had the right signage, I've talked with Paul about this and Dan some, but the right signage, I think, would be closed to through traffic instead of local traffic only. And then if you had speed bumps just up from my house, before you get to the stop sign, you could even put one past the stop sign, about halfway between the stop sign and, well, the next stop sign up there. If you had a sign that said speed bumps ahead, that will cover you as far as liability. If somebody comes flying down through there and hits a speed bump and loses control, they're going too fast. The speed limit's only 25. Some it's 45 or faster. And you put a speed bump just up from my house about where that 25-mile-an-hour speed limit is, and down from my house, across from Lisa and Larry's driveway, basically this, and then further down where the school bus stop sign is, that needs to be replaced. It's faded out pretty badly. And then down below, say, about where the speed limit sign is that says 25 miles an hour. This is just my suggestions, but there is kids playing out there. It is a city street now. It's not a county road anymore. It didn't need a stripe 2 weeks before it got sealed. It never did get overlaid except when Jay Lee was the mayor. And that was 92. It never got the other half of the road overlaid. That's why I called it Pothole Road. So that's basically all I got to say. I would like to talk with you more about it if you need.
Okay. I do know that someone that lives on the road had their pet run over and killed the other day.
I've lost 2 dogs, 3 cats, and thankfully no children. The neighbors lost 2 dogs. And and now my neighbors have children that catch the bus right there.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, Danny.
Thanks, Danny.
Anytime. And we can second that, actually, and I can maybe do something about it. Let's talk. I just want to second what Crystal was saying. Many of the town, I know that we've heard a lot of rumblings about law enforcement not being visible up here. They do, I can attest that the county does get up here quite a bit. It may not be when they're visible. I can personally say I know many deputies that cruise through here many different hours of the night when you're all are asleep. So you do get coverage. And if you do have concerns, you can reach out to me. And also Sheriff Brooksby is totally open to meet with anybody and discuss anything, any needs up here at all. So I guess I just want to come up and say, hey, you guys aren't forgotten, if you will. And I'm a resource. I'm happy to talk to anybody if you have these concerns like Bob, and I may or may not be able to get some resources up here to help with that. So that's pretty much it. I introduced myself maybe to some that don't know me. I'm Dan Croft. I'm a lieutenant with the sheriff's office. And so I'm here in town. Many nights throughout my 26-year career, I patrol the streets when I come home at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I drive through and we check things out. And I know many deputies do the same thing, and they come up here and try and run speed traps. And unfortunately, most of the time it's the locals that they catch. And that's not what the locals really wanted, but that's what it ends up being. So, but any questions, any comments, anything, you can filter them through me if you like, or Sheriff Brooksby is totally open to meet with anybody and accept any comments you may have.
Thank you. Be sure and say your name.
My name is Stan Burt.
Okay.
And just one quick thing is I hope it can save the town some money, which I think we should all be interested in. But last year, Desert Garden had a crack seal crew come in and seal the cracks on the streets. And it was about a 50% complete job. And the sad thing about this is what happens when it rains, the water goes down in the cracks that aren't sealed, it gets underneath in the road base in there, and all of a sudden that turns to mud. And that turns to mud, the pavement cracks. And pretty soon there's potholes and there's more problems than you can deal with. But I don't know if this was on any schedule to be done, but boy, it would be nice to get that repaired now. We've been lucky because we haven't had much rain. And so the damage has been very minimal. But if we ever get some good monsoon storms again and some of the other ones like we've had in the winter, those roads are going to fall apart. And then it gets really expensive. So I don't know if that was on any schedule to do or.
I don't think it to do, but I have had somebody else from Desert Gardens approach me about doing the crack seal also. So that's 2 of you now.
Yeah, like I say, it was kind of a sad deal when they came through last year and it was just kind of skimmed over and stuff. So.
My name is April McKeon, and concerning crack sealing, I have experience as a pavement engineer, and I would like to let the council know that the best time to crack seal is in the winter, because the cracks open up and they can fill them. And if they do it in the summer, when the cracks are small, it doesn't really, you don't get your money's worth. So that would have to be scheduled during cold weather.
So would you say it's already too late this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. I'd like to see crack sealing done in our neighborhood too, but we don't want to waste our money by doing it at the wrong time.
Okay, thanks.
Can I,
Uh-huh.
my husband
had been talking about this pocket bill issue. So this is more of his comment, so I'm gonna toss it out there as my husband Malachi Baird, a citizen. He wondered, and I don't know if it's even possible, do we need, with our new Co-op Terrace Road, does that road need to connect at Terrace Road? Can we stop it and eliminate the traffic flow? Because it seems to be the scariest parts when they're coming back down off the mountain.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You know where
Say it
Pocket
again?
Hill Road meets Co-op Terrace?
Yes.
Is there any reason that needs to connect? Does it have to be, it has to connect?
Emergency access, you have to have two exits and entrances.
Okay,
So-
that's
so
where I
you were-
didn't know, because that was the thing, it seems like that's where the problem is when they're coming to. I don't know if it's something we can look into.
So you were wondering if we could close off Pocketville Road and everybody just stays on
Right.
Co-op
And I
Terrace Road?
understand what Kevin is saying, there is a requirement for safety, entrances and exits, but I don't know exactly what that limit is, but.
International Fire Code, you should have a one-way street longer than 1,000 feet.
Say that again, Heath?
International Fire Code, the length of dead-end streets are not supposed to be longer than 1,000 feet.
Could we make it a dirt exit, to where it's not really a road, but
You
it's
could-
there?
You could possibly put, if there's an all-weather surface and a crash car block, you've seen the stakes that have crash
Yeah,
placards and.
because that would deter, and then put a sign there that says this is not an
That
entrance or
that would be
exit.
something you may want to work with the Hurricane Valley Fire District. You get there, if that's something
And if
you
the
can
residents
consider.
feel like that's a good solution.
It had been proposed several years ago to make a cul-de-sac at the end of Pocketville so that it did not connect to Kolob Terrace Road, and then people would be forced to use Kolob Terrace Road. And that got shot down, but that had been proposed in the past.
Still satisfied with fire, Starling's nodding at me. Yeah, you want to add to my comment?
Darlene Pope, I want to build on that. Even if it's like, you know how the fire departments have access keys? Like if there's a gate with a lock there, so they would have that access key.
Thank you. That ended my comment.
Okay, anybody? Sean, okay.
Yeah, Sean Amick, quick comments on a couple of different things. There's a subdivision and they have to rework their subdivision thing. And so we're already talking with them and propose some ideas where they could possibly just make that a cul-de-sac but not actually make it a cul-de-sac. Then Google will see it as a cul-de-sac, as a dead end, and then reroute everybody. So mostly it's just Google is routing everybody the shortest distance, even if it's a dirt road, they'll still go that way. So on to some further comments.
Okay, I was just going to say that I do know from our working, Niles doing some work with Google in the past, that we can contact Google and make arrangements with them that they can make sure that that shows as a cul-de-sac. But you've got to go way high up in Google to get to the right person who can make that decision, but I know it can be done. So
Yes.
that's
And
something to think
And if
about.
it's filed with the plans itself. So
Okay.
we'll talk to the developers then. I think that's a good idea to get something done. And
Okay.
mostly if it's just the reroute, then we're good. So a couple of comments. The lighting issue on the agenda tonight was just a little ambiguous about what that was specifically.
I'm sorry, I looked at my watch because it was ringing. What'd you say?
So just on the agenda, on the amended agenda, the lighting issue that was placed on there was just a little ambiguous about exactly what that was.
Oh.
If we could make that a little more clear, and if there's any documents that actually go with that, even if it's an amended agenda, it'd be nice for the public to be able to look at those. If there's other documents, I know there's handouts and stuff like that, so I'd appreciate that, especially if it's something that's just been added after the 10-day deadline. The main point I wanted to make tonight during public comment is come to my attention that our variance, our ordinance addressing variances is not exactly kind to those who don't have a lot of money. I'll say it that way, because currently, if you have to go to get a variance, you have to go through appeal authority, which requires that person paying for the appeal authority, their lawyer, our lawyer, and a stenographer, and. So it ends up being very costly. Variances should not have to be something that costs that much. So we need to, in the past, we had a board of adjustments. A lot of other towns still have a board of adjustments. The appeal authority should be something that they've made a decision and then it goes beyond that. It should go to the appeal authority. But simple things like variances and things like that should be addressed through possibly a board of adjustments. And maybe the town could look at going that direction or some other means of addressing that, rather than somebody being pushed away from filing for a variance because it's too costly. Thanks.
I'd like to follow up.
Oh, to be read into the record?
Be-
Okay.
Before we do that, Sean, thank you for bringing that. I feel that our appeal authority really excludes a lot of individuals from even appealing any decisions. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I agree with you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Bob Kelly. I've been here for 20 years, and I wish it was 50. I'm here tonight because I care about the people. And I've learned through the years that if we don't help each other, nobody gets helped. Something has to start. So tonight I'm here to represent the concept of better preparedness to survive difficulties, emergencies, whatever you want to call them. And part of the reason is, along with Sean and a few other people, some years ago, I was on the CERT team. Let me read to you 5 or 6 words to make a point. Starting triage, assess the threats, find the color appropriate, stop, tag, and move out. Basic thing the CERT team does: turn off electricity, turn off natural gas, and tag the dead people with black and move on. And the general thought about emergencies is they call it preparedness, but their preparedness doesn't start till the emergency stops. That's not pre-anything. It's post-emergency work. If we devote just a little bit of time, a little bit of money, which I can show you how to get for free, to in advance to get ready to do better during emergencies of any kind, everybody wins. I had an interesting and productive hour and a couple minutes with our mayor yesterday. I learned some stuff. This is the book from FEMA. Half of it is how to tell the other half what to do. We need it. We need this badly because it's like an insurance policy. You hope you never claim it. You hope you never have it until you do. And this is the book from Bob Kelly. Paul, I mentioned to him tonight, I can help people save money on taxes. And he said, I saved a little. Isn't that better than none? Mm-hmm. There's 6 different ways to qualify for additional money on your kitchen table that wouldn't be as loaded if you had to pay more taxes. Does anybody agree with me? Food costs an awful lot more than it did last year, and so does everything else. There's 6 ways to not pay all your assumed property taxes. One of them is you're old like me, disabled like me, good with paperwork like, no, I'll do their paperwork for them. But it's easy. And if they call me, I'll teach people how to better care for themselves and their neighbors. It's not hard and it's not expensive. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Would like to say something.
Okay, Kathy.
I'm Kathy Kelly, Bob's wife, and I'm going to put a good word for Bob. He has been studying for years on preparedness and how to be prepared before the emergency happens to offset it. So I would say he's an expert. honestly. And if you would come to our house, he has got everything documented in how many binders?
103.
103. Because he's been downloading stuff because his fear is electricity goes off. You don't have your internet, you don't have your electric lights or your computer. So anyway, that being said, I think he's a good candidate to help the town. I vote for him.
Okay. Before I read Wanda Leverett's letter into the record, I will bring up one thing about the BOA, Board of Adjustment, and that is that the Utah League of Cities and Towns has pushed for years for every town to get rid of their Board of Adjustment and to have an appeal authority. And we were one of the first ones in the state to do that. And just going back to a Board of Adjustment is just not what the state wants. Just thought I'd let you know. So now I will read this letter from Wanda Leverett. Says, I cannot attend the town council meeting tomorrow night and would like the following statement provided to the town council members. I see your work session includes a discussion of Desert Garden estate lighting. I ask that you seriously consider the results of the survey that was conducted. I would also like to thank the 3 residents of Desert Gardens that dedicated their time to conduct the survey. They afforded everyone in the Desert Garden community an opportunity to provide their input, as opposed to just a few individuals that might attend planning and zoning or town council meetings. From my perspective, the survey was conducted in a professional manner with the goal of gaining as much input and perspective from individuals that actually live or own property in Desert Gardens. To ignore the results would be a disservice to the Desert Garden community. The continued growth of Desert Gardens makes it a greater part of the Virgin community and contributing tax base. Since there is no representation on P&Z for this section of the Virgin community, input via a survey such as this lighting survey is an excellent mechanism for the town council to gain unbiased input. Thank you, Wanda Leverett. Hello? Okay.
That's why I'm here tonight. Those kind of people live here.
Thank you, Bob. Okay. Next item on the agenda is to open a public hearing on we'll be taking input on what should be rental fees, what people would like to see as rental fees for Heritage Town Square. And we are particularly focusing on rental fees for Heritage Town Square for town residents. And so shall I have a motion from anyone to open the public hearing?
Second.
Okay, so from my understanding at the present time, the fee for a town resident to rent this building, this property for, yes. Oh, thank you, Monica. There was a motion and a second and we didn't vote. Thank you for pointing that out. And Darcy. All right. So shall we vote on the motion to close the public meeting and open the public hearing? Paul?
Aye.
Aye from me.
Aye.
Okay, on to the public hearing. So my understanding is that the fee for a town resident to rent the property for a day is $750. I do not know what the fee is, if it is, there is an hourly rate also, correct? $40 an hour, or there is a daily fee. Those are the only 2 options right now? Okay. So we are taking public comment on whether we should change the daily rate and the hourly fee or add another fee, or keep it the way it is, whatever anyone wants to comment on the daily rental fee for town residents. Come up to the, yes.
Okay.
I need another
Kathy
sheet of
Kelly.
paper.
At present, we have got a service project that meets in the building. And so far, since we are a community outreach program, there has been no charge. So I propose that we continue that, because we could never afford to do service projects for other
Well,
people.
Service projects, that's fine.
Is it fine?
That would not change, correct?
Is that
I
correct?
can't imagine we would change that. I
Okay.
think we're talking about someone in the town who wants to rent the space.
Okay. Very
Okay.
good. Thank you.
I have a question. Is the fee including cleanup afterwards?
Yes.
I would suggest.
Yes.
From 30 years as a commercial property manager, separate them, and the cleaning fee supplied by a commercial company in business to do that on a contract, and a straight pass-through of money. The people that rent the ball, the unit, don't clean. A professional does, and they got liability insurance and all of that, and the town just passes the money through. Keep it simple, keep it reasonable, and save the liability insurance money.
Anyone else have any comment on rental fees for Heritage Town Square?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, so give us your names for the
Becky
record.
Erickson and
Okay.
Stacy Croft.
Okay.
We have been in charge of cleaning and renting out Heritage Town Square for 2 years, starting COVID time, right?
Yes.
And we, first of all, Becky and I, there was a need to fill a position, and we both tag teamed and decided it's something that we wanted to do together to represent Heritage Town Square. We love this building. We love this space. We love what it gives to our community. And we put a lot of passion into research, other buildings and other communities and contracts and all that kind of stuff. Advertising, everything. And we are still on the low side compared to other cities for what we have to offer. Their Laverton City office, for example, they do rent theirs for $25 an hour, and they just do the hourly rate, but it is for a considerably older building with limited seating and there's not a full functioning kitchen or grounds to
And this
to
is
maintain.
what town?
Laverton City. So we've gone throughout the county and have done research just up the road. For an example, in Springdale, they do $50 an hour for locals, $200 an hour for out of town. And it's by the hour, and they don't have a full functioning kitchen or anything as well. Right now, Becky and I, we get paid when the building gets rented. So we do try to maintain a clean building because we do show the building. So we try to make sure, and with communication with Dan, we'll do a list and ask, need pine needles or fertilizer or whatever. We try to keep the building functioning and looking nice because it represents our town. And as of right now, we do have the protection of a donor making the payment right now, but we don't have a contract. So there may be a point in time when we're going to have to come up with a payment. So we need to be aware of that. If by lowering the price, we could put, ourselves into jeopardy of losing this. We don't own this free and clear. So I think the townspeople need to be aware of that. And honestly, we do have more out-of-towners rent for weddings than we do have locals. And that was even when the price was lower. We have that. We have record of that. We have documentation of that. So we've already doubled what we've done last year because of the COVID restrictions lifted. So we do have a lot of rentals coming into place, and people coming into this area. So I think for future, we do need to be careful of how we price things, and we need to be able to maintain this building and
I
make it look
also-
nice.
I feel like we work with the town people as well, like services. We've done free of charge, for a couple different things that I'm not gonna make them pay for
We don't
something like
pay-
that.
we don't charge a cleaning
We're
fee.
willing to work with, the town people. If we need to lower it, okay, but I feel like what we're at right now is working with non-residents especially, but I see how the townspeople might want.
We
you
have
know,
talked
more of a-
about a half-day rental fee for locals, doing a $375, which would be well within that lower price. And I do feel like that should be an option for the locals. Because obviously this is their community and they do need a space. So if that could be something that could be taken into consideration on, it's not in writing as of right now. And if anybody has any questions and wants to see our research, we're more than happy to share that. We didn't do a PowerPoint presentation, but we do have pictures. We've gone around and taken pictures. We've spoken to, what do you call, like wedding
Other
planners
venues.
and other venues. And honestly, that's when the price was raised about a year ago, I think it was based upon other venues saying there's no way you can rent the tables and chairs and the whole thing for the price that
For
you're
what
given.
Tables and chairs we have here to go rent them would be $400 almost.
And that's
And
included.
a lot of places do not have tables and chairs, so it's an extra $400 on top of the $3,500 that they're charging for just their one room space.
Exactly.
So I feel like we're kind of on the low end of what's around us for our fee, but
And to have a full functioning kitchen without having to have a caterer, because a lot of them assign you to have a caterer in order to use their kitchen. So anyway,
Have you had, before you walk away,
Mhm.
I do have a question which normally you don't do during a public hearing, but I'm going to ask anyway. Have you had anyone complain to you about the fee? Any locals? If they've called to want to rent the place, have any of them complained about the fee to
I
you?
have not.
no,
personally.
I've had people say, oh, really, they've raised it. And I've explained to them, and then they've asked, well, what do we get with it? And we've said tables, chairs, full functioning kitchen, a dance floor, things like that. And from there, there hasn't been any comments as far as that goes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a question for them? No? Okay. Anybody else?
Darlene Pope, as a mother who's paid for 2 weddings, I'm like going $750 for tables and cleanup and a kitchen. I think that's very fair. I mean, maybe talk a little more about a local's price. That might be a good compromise. But if there's a payment, we got to be aware of that as well. But it just sounds like a deal to me.
Dan Croft. Can I ask I've heard complaints from the locals and the complaints are coming in. What does the town want to do? I mean, are we trying to accommodate the locals, or are we trying to make this building a place that we can rent and make money for the community, for the town, and bring people in that they can see the community? What is it that we want to accomplish?
Well, I can say that when the money was obtained to do the restoration of this building and to add the kitchen and this dance floor out here, that one of the things the town was required to show the company that granted us the money was how we were going to earn money to pay back the loan. And they wanted proof of what we would do. And one of the, and we talked about renting it out for weddings, et cetera. And that was in the paper. That was in our loan papers. I know that.
So if we start renting or allowing, say, locals to just use the building or for a significantly reduced price, how are we going to accomplish that? I don't even know any idea what the monthly payment is?
It's an
Or
annual
it's
payment.
Annual payment?
Mhm. It's
I'm sure
10
it's pretty significant.
$10,000.
Yeah, it's pretty significant. So, I mean, you think if you just allow people to start using the stuff, eventually the tables and chairs, things are going to need to be replaced. Appliances are going to go out if they're used more, and you have no income to replace any of that stuff, then that's going to obviously fall back on the city. And where are we going to come up with those funds? So I can understand that the city folks agreed. I mean, it sounds like a lot of money for a local to be able to use. And maybe you can look at something and say, okay, well, if you just want to use the building and not the kitchen area, or you don't want the tables and chairs or something, maybe you'd come up with a different price or something for that. Or if you just want to secure the grounds and not use this building and have a place to play, or whatever they want to do, if they want to decorate this up and have a dance floor or something, then maybe that could be based on what they use the building for or something. I don't know. I don't really see an option if we start allowing people to either not pay or pay a significantly reduced price just to allow the locals to utilize it for what they want to utilize it for. And that's why I'm asking. I don't know what it is they want to necessarily utilize it for, but you still got to make the money to pay that back. So.
Becky Erickson again. I just want to add to what he was just saying in the annual payment that since Stacy and I took it over, we did $7,035 that this building made for the building, just the monthly or the daily rate, and $390 for the hourly rate. So since we've taken it over for 2 years, that's what we've brought in. So to make an hourly or an annual payment, if we rent it out for less than that, I just don't see how we do that.
I'm sorry, you said you brought in how much?
$7,035 for the day rate and $390 for that hourly.
Is that a gross amount? Or is
Yeah,
that-
well, that's since Stacy and I, since Stacy. No, that's what the town,
That's like town profit.
that's the town profit for the building. Thank you.
Mayor, from a management viewpoint, if you're gonna buy a building to rent like this, you look at what you're offering and what it's worth, and then you determine how much mortgage it'll carry. Starting with the mortgage, believe it or not, is backwards. If we have to have $10,000 a year, or about $200 every Friday, we need to create something worth a little more than that, which means look at what you've got, make lots of notes, good and bad, look at what you're competing with, good and bad, and look at the frequency of usage for your competition and yourself. You run the numbers. I can afford this much at that rent. That's how you determine if you're going to buy it. But if you've already got it, you do the same thing, just like you hadn't owned it yet, to see if you need to make changes in what you're offering the public so as to generate enough income to pay the mortgage. So if the chairs are all separate and the seats and so on, talk to people about the average person pays this much and gets this much. Is that what you need? Then ask them, how much can you afford? And you hope they say a number higher than what you're asking. But you need to find out as a renter owner where they're going when they don't go here. Then find out why they're going where they don't go here, they go somewhere else. To know what you need to charge. And you need to figure rentals, the city pays itself. You may need to transfer money from one account to another and call it rent to satisfy the mortgage legal requirements. Thank you.
Can I make?
That's legal.
Our payment next year will be $7,500. And so it looks like we made this year sufficient to pay next year's payment, but there's not enough there to replace or to put into a slush fund. So that's, I'm just telling the facts. I'm not arguing about what you had to say. Yeah. So and I don't think, I've never felt as a treasurer of the town that this building is going to pay for itself. It's here for the public to use. And that's been my opinion.
Okay, Sean Ammett, just a couple of comments on here. I think we need more options. Right now, it's just, we're looking at lump sums. There's either a hourly or there's the daily. There's also some other fees in there that are not mentioned to the public tonight, but you got cleaning fees. If you're doing alcohol, there's a whole nother fee for that. Maybe there needs to be options. Most groups don't need the kitchen, but if it's available, they're going to want to use it. Maybe we separate that out, separate the tables and chairs options. If somebody just wants to do a dance in here, I live near here. So I would like to see this not as an event center, but a community center like it was intended for. Right now, the pricing doesn't accommodate for that as a community center. It's more of an event center. Event center should be something more like what we see commercially in somebody's beautiful backyard or somewhere like that where they can do those things. Yes, this is a nice location for those weddings and stuff. Let's separate those out and do those separately. But a community center is what this was built for. And the community at that time was willing to say, we're going to go ahead and take this loan out so we can just get the project done and we can do it right and it will last. But we want to be able to use it. And now I don't feel that the pricing fixes that. At $25 an hour would be more than sufficient. Again, if we reduce it and we say, oh, you're not going to use the kitchen or something else, then we can reduce it. The cement pad out here, if somebody just wanted to use that, is there a fee separate for that? Or does it have to be the building and everything all together? I think we need to separate that out. Just the simple math on it, $40 an hour does not equal $750 a day. So I'm just trying to figure out, I know that's the cost that you can get out of an event center. But again, I don't feel that we are an event center. I'd rather have this as a community program. Also cleaning fees. I think I've mopped these floors more than anybody in this room. Because I'm over here after any kind of event or wedding, and I'll help the people sweep and mop and clean up and tell them where they're supposed to put the garbage because no one seems to know after an event. So let's make this a community center. Let's have the pricing at least for our community to reflect that. And I appreciate your time.
I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. We don't have a hidden cleaning fee. It's the prices with that we get paid upon those fees. And also that total that Becky gave you was for a 2-year period, not a 1-year period. So we wouldn't have been able to make that back. Also, the prices that we researched were from community centers, not event centers. So some event centers, but community centers, Springdale, Rockville, Laverne, and Tokerville. So we have that. We have those policies. And Becky and I tried really hard to do like the Halloween functions and community events. We've held those events and cleaned, and maintained the building for those things without payment. So anyway, just things to consider.
Thank you, Stacy. Anybody else? If not, I will take a motion to close the public hearing and return to the public meeting.
I make a motion that we continue the public hearing at the time a resolution comes back to make changes to any of the fee structure. Um, What's that? Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Can I say something in discussion on that? Because I want to make it
Yes.
super clear.
Yes.
Stacy and Becky, none of us are questioning the board. So, no, I don't think one person sitting in this can get this question. So, just want that. Make it clear.
Yes.
We close the public hearing, go back into the regular meeting, take that vote. I think we need to.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We close public hearing, go back into the regular meeting, then take action, the motion.
We did go back to the public meeting. We took a vote.
I continued the public hearing until resolution is.
Oh, okay. Now we need to close it. Okay. All right.
So I make a motion that we return back to our regular meeting.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. So at least your comment, we were just talking about, at least okay. I realized while we were doing the public hearing that I skipped something on the agenda. Now I need to go back to that. And that was under number 5, where we had the consent agenda. Item C, I said we would have to do separately. That did not belong as part of the consent agenda, and I did not do that before we went to open forum. So we need to do this, and that was an appointment for the Hurricane Valley Fire District. And on Tuesday of last week, the the county commissioners had at their county commissioners meeting, they issued a new resolution that was a unanimous decision by the county commissioners that any appointee to the Hurricane Valley Fire District had to be a current elected official. And therefore, while Bruce was allowed to continue as our appointee as a former elected official, they changed the rule that it has to be a current official. So Bruce can no longer serve as our appointee. So I've pulled back out the resolution that I had in January to appoint me, the mayor, as the appointee for the fire district. Now, I realized that we had listed on the agenda that we were going to see, it says C Resolution R 2022-A, which is actually the resolution that was for the solid waste district, not the Hurricane Valley Fire District. So I've brought the correct resolution, but I needed to check with Heath whether or not we can go forward and vote on that because we had the wrong resolution listed on the agenda. The wrong one. Okay, so we will have to do a special meeting sometime between now and the next fire district meeting because they are waiting for us. They canceled their recent meeting so that they could have us and Hurricane. We were the only two that had former elected officials as our representatives. So they continued it to the April meeting so that Virgin and Hurricane could get their appointees. So we will have to do a special meeting to appoint the representative for the fire district before they have their meeting in April. So just so you know, we'll be having a special meeting on that. It'll take 5 minutes.
When's the meeting in April for the fire
I
district?
think it's the 19th. It's before our next town council meeting. Okay. So item number 7, where we were going to discuss the Heritage Town Square rental fees. Do we really need any further discussion? We asked our questions of her and made our comments. I don't know that we really need to go any further.
The
and
only
discuss it.
other discussion is if we bring this back, we need to explore how we deal with the neighbors, because I know that there's been a couple rave parties that have disturbed some of the neighbors in this area. And whether it's provide notice, cut off a certain sound level, something we need to do since all the events are in this neighborhood and it affects the neighbors. What that is, I don't know, but we need to at least explore that.
Are you gonna add that maybe we look at a local hour rate or something like that has been suggested in different public areas? Just that might help a little in supporting, not the daily rate. I mean, I got married, it was $1,000 at my venue. It was smaller than this. And then I had to supply everything. So that I might suggest that as an option, just because for like bridal shop, baby shower, like little tiny things that are not necessarily big ticket items.
Are we allowed to comment?
That's up to them. Oh, sorry.
I'll let you comment.
I was just going to say, we had talked about with the new website doing some kind of calendar that shows the locals when we're having events. Right now, there's a 10 o'clock cutoff. They have to be cleaned up, which is countywide noise ordinance. We didn't necessarily have a rave party. They had techno music, which somebody interpreted as a rave. It is techno music, which
I will guarantee you there will never be a rave.
Interests people at raves, so they're looking at rave. But I do know to some people, maybe it sounded like that, but 10 o'clock is their cutoff. They get fined. That's why they have it. That's why they put a deposit down, is because of those reasons. So anyway.
Okay.
I'd like to propose that maybe they come with some suggestion of they just rent the building, how much that would be, or if they just rented the dancing floor.
The different options that were
Different
proposed.
options, to be included in that.
I think that's great. A lot of these things were in place before Becky and I even started this. The
Right.
contract, a lot of things were in place before we even, so.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, Bob?
Each month on my electric bill, there's about 15 items that I pay for, to include 4 or 5 different kinds of taxes. One of which goes to the town of Bergen. It's about $25 a year. And we are not allowed to forgive it as a city. We have to accept, the town has to accept the money, state law and told. I'm wondering why we can't take that money, just a little bit from everybody, every month, and put it into a special fund, let's call it, to help seniors who are having a problem paying their bills. And have a couple of people on the council, maybe one other person, make the judgment call in very strict privacy, just in case. And if it reaches a certain amount, then we can put it into the general fund, just go up and down. But use that money to help people.
Okay, so this was an open forum comment, not a comment that has to do with renting Heritage Town Square? Okay. Okay. Yes?
Can I just say on the idea of separating? In the beginning, and I honestly think we vertically charge separate if they wanted the kitchen or not, but I know of 2 times that people said, we don't need the kitchen. All we want is the room and bathrooms. And then we come to clean up and, yeah, the kitchen is a disaster.
Oh.
They cooked, they did everything. So the keys would definitely have to be different. Where you're gonna have people using things they're not paying for.
Okay. Never thought of that.
Just a different key.
Yeah, that's what she said, different keys.
Who is the building injured?
Stacy and Becky. Yes, Crystal.
As the clerk, most people call into the town office, and I do refer them out to Becky and Stacy. They've done a wonderful job on keeping up on this building and showing this building. The only complaint that we've ever had as far as office-wise was local prices for locals. Like for instance, for a baby shower, or if they only wanted it just for a half of a day, not a whole day. And it's only been a local thing. It's never been somebody outside wanting to, come in or. So stuff like that. It's just more of a local thing.
Thank you, Crystal. So we have continued, this had on the agenda that after this discussion, we would have a motion and vote, but I don't think that's necessary given that we already continued the public hearing on to next month.
And we don't have a resolution to vote on.
Right, to vote on. Okay. Okay, so on to item number 8, discussion and approval of ordinance 2022-06, amending the Virgin Town procurement policy. We had this on the agenda last month and the town council discussed it, but we continued it to this month so that we could allow for any public comment if anyone had any on this particular ordinance. So is there anyone that has a comment on this? If not, we're going to go ahead and, of course.
I did have a chance to look through this. I would maybe in the future recommend that you have a few other eyes, just look, make sure you got T's crossed, commas in the right place. I do have some notes of those. I don't have to one of them for you guys. I could just hand those over if you'd like. But there's some words left out. Things like that. Okay. But that's what I do. I like to edit.
Is that the only comment you had? Was your editing? No. Okay.
No. So the first comment I have is on section B2. In this, it's kind of covered down below, but I was wondering in this section, any procurement that is not part of the daily or regular expenses running the town office or town programs. Basically, it's talking about your regular expenses and things like that. If there's anything over and above that, you have to have a PO. In a policy like this, it's typical that you would set a dollar amount for that as well. So I was just thinking that maybe for your in order to trigger it, yes, it can be something that is not regularly spent, but also a dollar amount would also trigger the need for a PO. Then that just keeps your paperwork and your transparency clear. We have a similar policy in our office. Also,
are you suggesting that there be some de minimis amount that over, because right now PO is required? For $1, are you saying over $100 or something like that?
The way it reads, and maybe it just needs to be worded so everything must have a PO, but it kind of says any procurement that is not part of the daily or regular expenses.
Putting gas in Dan's truck.
He doesn't need a PO, yeah. So if there's, I'm just suggesting that either identify those very clearly, what those are going to be, or set a dollar amount and say anything over this amount and is not on this list definitely needs a PO. But buying paper, you might buy a case of paper instead of one ream, and that may need to trigger a PO where otherwise it wouldn't, things like that. So just a suggestion just in that. And there's something that could be adjusted later. It doesn't have to be tonight. Then under section 6, still under B, let's see, and then number 6, there was the discussion last month about the request for proposal, the RFP. In this section, that's where that needs to be spelled out, is how you're going to address the RFP guidelines in the RFP. And I have at the bottom of C, I just have and according to the guidelines included in any.
Suggesting that we add a section here that has that.
Either that or just like I suggested, just say that you have to follow the guidelines of the RFP. Because last time they talked about, well, how do we decide who we give that bid to? That's in the RFP. But it's not written in here at all, that's how you're going to do that. So just one little simple line added there. Then the other thing would be simply just the amounts. Let's see. And if those amounts are good for municipalities, ours are a lot lower. The different amounts that trigger different things. It's 0 to 10,000 or not 0 to 10,000. It's 10,000 is a limit. And then after 10,000 to 100,000, you have something then over 100,000. Right. So I'm just wondering if those are the correct numbers that this municipality needs, because our budget is maybe a lot less than some of other communities. What are those correct numbers? Where do we come up with those numbers? Why do we have 10,000 to 100,000? Ours, we don't have a budget that's as big as the town, but anything over 50,000 throws us over to needing a RFP and more bids and stuff like that. So look at those numbers and see if those are correct for yourself. One more thing. Also on the exemptions, I know this is pretty standard, but you might want to give a little bit more reason why. This would be on section C, the exemptions, number 5. And the exemption if the procurement is for the provision of legal, accounting, or administrative services, maybe just spelling out what the administrative services are and why. And then how these are procured. If there's a different method that these are procured, then either it's listed here or you need to reference how you're doing that. For example, your services.
It ties back to the process.
Section and why it's not subject to the 3-bid requirement.
Yes, I remember that. And that's why I'm saying just fill in the blanks on those, because there's a little bit of ambiguity in there. And that would just be helpful for you as a council and as well as the public to know why they got chosen. Okay, so thank you.
Oh, by the way, Sean, I was going to say, Darcy pulls up the ordinances and makes any final little changes that happen. So if you would just give her your edits, then she would put them in. Okay. Okay, so any comments from the town council? I'll take that as a no. I know we talked about it quite a bit last time. So do we want to proceed with a vote, motion and a vote? No?
Was everyone okay with what
Yes.
Sean brought up?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I thought you were
mean,
asking
to
something
accept
else.
it the way it is.
Subject to approval of this attorney, since he's the one that drafted this. And I haven't seen those edits, and I'm not going to approve them straight out without looking at his grammatical edits. The questions from Sean, I think we can raise as an amendment to this. And that way we can take a vote on it today and come back to any amendments after we've considered it among ourselves and in council with Heath as to which ones he thinks it's appropriate or which one appropriate. And we should explore what Sean said, but not include him today, but come back at a later time. So, number on
06.
Motion to approve ordinance 2022 -06 grammatical but subject to the city attorney's approval of those grammatical edits.
I'll second.
Misty? Bruce, sorry, I'm so sorry. Leroy?
Yes.
Paul, yes. Okay. All right. So the agenda is to do assignments pursuant to this ordinance. And I had some suggestions that I have talked with everybody except Misty. With you working full-time, Misty, I was just unsure what we would put under your purview. And I had a suggestion but I don't know what you think. So, okay, I forgot about that. So before we proceed, do you have any areas that you particularly would like to oversee the budget for?
What departments are we?
Well, what I have here, I have that, what I had put down on this thing that Jean and I had talked about, I'd put down public safety and administrative areas where the mayor, and just because they just are. And that leaves areas of community development. The community development, Jean already kind of does that anyway in his job description as zoning administrator. So I was going to leave Jean as over community development, any expenses there. And then it really left public works, parks, and even parks, we have a couple of different. There's a section on community gatherings, and Crystal has been wanting to enlarge the amount of community gatherings that we do. And so Jean had, well, Paul was going to take part of Parks and Recreation. So if we did this, it would be kind of divided up between some Parks and Recreation would go to Paul, some would go to Misty, if you're interested in this at all. Otherwise, it would all go to Paul, the community gatherings. We have Public Works, and that has been Leroy's bailiwick for a while. And he at first had said he did not want to do public, also the treasurer, but so he's got a lot already on his plate. But he recently said that after talking with Jean, he would be willing to share Public Works with Jean. But even with Public Works, there's a lot, because there's streets and roads, there's septic and sewer, there's general maintenance in the town. We've got water acquisition and planning, and solid waste. I'm sorry?
Can I sit on two? Because I would like to help with the public gatherings and the parks, but I think I was looking somewhere in public works like roads.
Okay, what, before moving on, before saying yes, I know you've been always interested in roads, but do you have any, what's your thought?
This is for budget purposes, so I'm not married to any of the
Okay,
any of the different things. I mean,
so if she wants to do streets and roads, you're okay with that?
yeah, because
What-
this is budget.
Okay, so what do you,
things, but,
so what do you think? Do you have any objection to
No.
Misty? Okay, so Paul will do Parks and Recreation, all of Parks and Recreation, because we've talked about this already, right?
So that's fine with me.
Okay. And I'm going to do Public Safety and a Town Administration. And Jean will do Community Development, what happens there, whatever is necessary. Public Works will split up between you have, Misty having
Misty over roads and
streets and roads.
streets and roads, and Leroy over all other aspects of public works.
Well, Jean was to take, did you have any particular on Public Works that you were interested in?
No, I think I was going to split it up with Gene.
But you didn't, but you guys hadn't
But we
discussed
hadn't
how
talked
you were
about
going to
what
do
yet,
it.
yeah.
There's definitely elements, there's sewer and
Yeah.
water.
I'd like to help Paul with parks and other gatherings. If that's something that I don't know
Okay,
as well. I feel like that's kind of too, for me, trying to broaden it, just depends on what we.
I think for purposes of the procurement code, you need to have one person appointed over it, and,
and somebody like an assistant?
well, if someone wants to assist and be involved in it, I'm sure
Okay.
council members always going to assist.
I'll set up roads and streets.
I'm sorry, what?
I'll set up roads and streets to make it simple for our procurement policy.
Okay, but it was okay what you wanted to do. He was saying we just need one who's over it, and then if you want to assist with the community gatherings, you can do so. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, then I'm going to suggest Parks and Rec for Paul. I'm going to go ahead and suggest Public Works that you're assigned that area, and then Jean will work with you. Okay? And then you will help with both the streets and roads and community gatherings, instead of having one area that is over, that you're over. Correct?
She's over, we're breaking up the category of public works.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
okay,
streets and roads.
got it. And you're everything else in Public Works. Okay, got it. Okay.
If you're going to put something on procurement, I would like to be there since I'm treasurer. That's part of my responsibility.
Oh, well, everybody can work with you on that. Yeah. Okay. So, and then I'll be doing Town Administration and Public Safety. So is that everything? Anything we're forgetting?
When I have a chance to get with Gene, we'll probably break up. the
I'm
rest
sure
of
you will.
Public Works, and then we'll let you know which areas, if that's okay.
Okay. Is that all right, Heath? Okay. As long as you're still the top dog. Okay. If we have agreed, this question is for Heath. If we have agreed like we did just now, do we still need to do a motion and vote on these assignments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or is it gonna be questions and resolution?
No, it's just what we just make a motion to,
Better make the motion.
I better make the
You're
motion,
right.
yeah. I make a motion that pursuant to 2-06, that the assignments will be as follows. Jean is in charge, oversees town administration and public safety. Paul oversees Parks and Recreation. Misty oversees streets and roads inside Public Works, but she will also assist Paul on community gatherings. Leroy is over Public Works, except for streets and roads, and Jean will assist. And Jean is over community associated items under community. And those are the assignments as I see them.
I'll second
Paul?
Aye.
Jean, aye. Leroy?
it. Aye.
Misty? All right. With all that done, we have concluded all items on the public agenda, and we are ready to go into a closed meeting to discuss current and potential future litigation. So I need a motion to go into a closed meeting.
Motion to adjourn to closed meeting.
Do we have to close the public meeting?
Yes, it's a motion to,
To adjourn into.
what? Yes. I second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, everybody. So we were going to have our closed meeting, and you are free to go.